Hey, hello everybody. I hope everybody doing well. I just wanted to do a quick video here because I've never really explained or kind of given y'all a tour of my Buccaneer, my airplane. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes here, a few minutes, and give you a quick tour, kind of give you a little bit of an update as to what I've done to it since I bought it originally, and kind of go from there. So as you've seen, if you've been watching my videos, you've seen that I've been flying it quite a bit. It's an amphibian, so I can land it on both the land and the water. But yeah, I've had it now. I mean, this is October. Today's the middle of October, October the 14th, and I've had it now for over a year. I bought it, actually took possession of it the end of September of last year, and you know, and at this point in October I was pretty much had it in my garage, and I was repainting it, I was wrapping it, rebuilding my dash. So I was doing all of that stuff to it before actually getting it flight ready. So I'll turn the camera around here and just kind of give you a little bit of a tour. So here she is. When I originally bought it, it was pretty much all white with a couple of blue stripes on the tail where the blue stripes are right now. Those were blue, but I repainted it. A couple of reasons why I repainted it. I mean, the obvious reason is to make it my own. I like blue is my favorite color. I like the blue and black theme, but that was number one. Number two, I also wanted to paint it because I knew it was going to be sitting out in the sun, and I wanted to kind of prolong the life of my fabrics as much as possible. Now, the airplane, for the most of its life, has been sitting in a hangar out of the sun. So the fabrics are still good, but they are definitely aged. And so that's, you know, my next major project is to replace the fabrics on the airplane. But yeah, I pretty much, I painted it with a UV resistance paint to hopefully, you know, extend the life, you know, and prolong it a bit, because I knew it was going to be sitting out in the sun and I didn't want them deteriorating as much as possible. But the wings and surfaces for the most part came out okay. You can see a lot of places where the paint is chipped off and stuff, especially on the cover. This cover was probably the worst of it all. As you can see, the cracking on the plastic and everything. So the paint obviously has come off in those sections, but you know, I haven't had to do a whole lot of things to it. There have been some things that I've had to repair and replace just because of the age of the airplane. The most recent thing I had to replace was my tail wheel down here. I had it originally an 8-inch tail wheel, but the tail wheel that came with it was the original, and the bearings pretty much just froze up, locked up on them, seized up, so had to replace it. But they wanted $300 just for that tail wheel, the one that came on it from Matco. So I didn't want to pay $300 for a small little 8-inch tail wheel, so I found this one on Aircraft Spruce, and it's a 6-inch wheel, but there were a lot of good reviews on that wheel, and even a couple of people that posted a reviews had put the wheel on their Sea Ray, which the Sea Ray is pretty much the same kind of airplane. It's just a bit heavier, considerably heavier than my airplane. So I figured if it was good enough for a Sea Ray, definitely be good enough for me. I've had a couple of flights on it. Today was the most recent flight, and I really like that tail wheel. The smaller diameter makes it easier to turn, so when I'm taxiing and I got to turn, it's not as difficult to turn. This is my engine. I'm running a Rotax 670 engine. This engine is a 2-stroke, and it originally came out of a snowmobile, and so couple of modifications. Number one modification that had to be done to adapt it was the block had to be machined to be able to fit a prop gearbox on it, and that was done I originally bought this gearbox from a gentleman down in South Florida, and he had this engine, and he offered me the engine for, you know, a price that I really couldn't pass up, because at the time when I bought the airplane, it came with a 582, Rotax 582, which is only a 65 horsepower engine. Now that engine was plenty powerful enough for a single person, and pretty much that was it. It flew good with me in it, but if I ever wanted to be able to fly with a passenger or take up a passenger, there's no way I would have been able to do it with the 65 horsepower. So I originally was looking at upgrading the 582 to a 583 with brake valves. That would give me about an extra 15 to 20 horsepower. But I was going to need to get a gearbox anyways, because the gearbox that came with the 582 was not big enough to handle the extra horsepower. So that's what I started searching for gearbox. I found this gentleman. When I went down to pick it up, he asked me if I'd be interested, or he just let me know. He said, hey, by the way, I got a 670, and these 670s put out anywhere from 90 to 105 horsepower, depending on where you're looking, also depending on the RPM range. And the snowmobiles, they run you know, up to 8,000 RPM, which I think at that RPM they're pushing out, you know, anywhere from 105 to 115 horsepower. I run it at you know, 6,700 RPM. So that the RPM settings that I'm running them at, we're looking at about 90, anywhere from between 90 and 100 horsepower, probably closer to 90, 95 horsepower. Anyways, it's plenty horsepower. I can climb with myself, I can climb out on this airplane at about 800 or 900 feet per minute, which is awesome. I have added some extra weight, dead weight, about 180 pounds worth, 185 pounds worth, and gone it up in test flight, and it's still plenty powerful enough to fly with the extra weight. So I have no doubt that I'll be able to fly with a passenger, you know, up to 200 pounds, including myself and a full tank of gas. A couple of things I had to do to this engine to make it completely aircraft, make it an aircraft engine, was I had to add, I replaced the head, because the head that it came with was only a single ignition head. So I replaced the head with a 582 dual ignition head. I took the ignition components out of my 582. I ordered an adapter plate for my stator assembly, and I was able to install the 582 dual ignition, the Ducati dual ignition setup. So this works really nice. And I also took the carburetors, the Bing 54 carburetors, off of my 582 as well. And then I ended up putting my 582 back together, and I sold it pretty much as a bare engine, with just the head and the short and the block itself, with no carburetors and no ignition components. But yeah, but everything is running. I mean, the thing's running great. And it runs beautifully, and it's got plenty of horsepower, so I'm really happy about that. Otherwise, you know, the only other thing I've added are these trim tabs for the autopilot. I'm still working on these, this setup, trying to iron out the kinks. So I won't go into that, but this is from Level Aviation. It's an iLevel AP unit, and it puts two trim tabs, one on the elevator and one on an aileron, and that pretty much gives me autopilot. So once I can get that ironed out and working properly, that should be really, really cool. But their support has been excellent, and I've been communicating with them back and forth, and they've been helping me out. So like I said, hopefully we'll be able to get it ironed out to where it's working like it should. I also replaced my seats. Originally the sling seats that came with it I didn't like, and so I ended up making some custom seats, but the custom seats just weren't fitting properly in here, and they were not as comfortable. And so I came across a gentleman who had these seats. These are typically out of or these are out of a Sea-Ray, but he sold them to me for a good price. They were a spare set that he had. Eventually I'm going to get them recovered, but yeah, they work perfectly. They fit perfectly in this airplane, and they're a lot more comfortable than my other ones. My electric components, I had to I've had to redo my electric components. Everything that you see there is still original components, but I just had to rewire, fix some wiring. And originally down here they had a block of relays, which ended up getting rusted up, and the terminals were getting rusted, and it just they started falling apart. Cables were breaking, so I ended up removing the relays altogether and just wiring everything directly to the fuse block with my everything there. I got a 12-gallon fuel tank. I ended up installing a bilge pump in the front and in the rear, so I got 2 bilge pumps, and I also ended up adding a drain hole down here for this step unit, because water gathers here, and so I added the drain hole there. And there's also a drain hole in the back, so that way I leave the plugs out, and when it rains, at least the water can all drain out. And the windshield, I had to replace as well, because the windshield that was on it was horrible. This is just a temporary windshield. This was my first attempt at installing a windshield. Unfortunately, I can't buy a windshield for this already, you know, pre-bent and pre-made the way it was from the factory. So I've had to you pretty much have to custom make your own windshield. But I bought some Lexan polycarbonate. At the time, I didn't have a way. I was trying to figure out how to bend it, you know, to add the bends that I needed on the sides. I've since built a jig that I have in my garage that will that has a heating element that goes across the whole length of it. So now I'm able to bend it, but I had already messed this one up, and you can see over here on this side how I was trying to bend it with using heat, and it was horrible. But I left it on here because this, at least I can see through this windshield. the previous windshield, the original one that came with it, was just horrible. It was so bad, and if I had a bad glare, it was really difficult to see through it. So this one, you know, it works, it does the job, I can see through it, and until I get another one and install it, you know, that'll be that. And that's pretty much it. I had to recently, whenever I replaced the tail wheel, I also had to rebuild the bearings, replace all the wheel bearings in here. I also replaced my installed some new brake pads in there as well, so my brakes work nice now, and those new bearings are really nice as well. And we'll go in here to we're gonna go in here and show you what I got for my avionics and my dash. The only thing that I have that came with the airplane is my radio unit here, and then my engine information unit over there. Everything else I've installed and replaced. The eye-level aviation unit that I use, basically it's a complete wireless setup, so it allows me to use my iPhone, my iPad, or whatnot. So I have my main main iPad here, the iPad Pro in the middle. That is I use that primarily for my navigation software, my moving map, and I have an iPad mini that I use here, and I use that for my EFIS, and my gauge stack and stuff like that. Also engine monitoring system, and I've just got another iPhone mount over there that I can I mount my iPhone to, and I can pull up additional data and additional stuff, so I can connect up to 6 devices to that avionics unit, and it's really nice, a really nice unit. So but yeah, I redid my dash. I covered it with the same wrap that I used on the outside. I had some issues here, so I'll probably end up at some point having to pull the wrap off and rewrap it again. But it's easy to do. It's no big deal. Other than that, I have you know, I got a single handbrake here. I've got electric flaps. I don't have manual flaps, and that's nice for this. This does have electric flaps. It does not have electric landing gear, so I do have my manual landing gear. I got to lift this sucker up, you know. But it would be nice to have an electric unit, but it's no big deal. You know, you get electric stuff, and that's just one more thing to break, right? But that's pretty much it. That's the rundown. it's coming up on next month. I got to do the annual inspection, conditional inspection on it. So I'll have my son do that, and I'll help him with that. But otherwise, I mean, it's been running. It flies beautifully. It's a really fun airplane to fly. You know, it's really fun to land on the water as well. So that's really cool. I love the airplane. Like I said, I want to, you know, my next major investment is going to be new fabrics for the airplane, and then once I do that, it'll look like a brand new airplane. And then you know, once I do that, I'm also going to, obviously, once I get all the existing fabrics off and everything, I'm going to go through the whole infrastructure, the whole wing tubing assembly. I'm going to inspect everything down to each and every bolt, and you know, just make sure everything is good. But yeah, that's about it, guys. So I'm gonna let you go. It's been a lot of fun flying. I hope y'all enjoy the videos that I upload and post. You know, but it's you know, it's a hobby, and I don't want to say it's a toy, but it's like anything, whether you have a boat or a jet ski. I mean, technically it's a toy, so it requires ongoing maintenance and repairs, and things wear out, and especially because I land in salt water and stuff, I have to keep an eye on everything. And you know, like the wheel bearings and stuff, although these are the original wheel bearings, you know, so it was built, this aircraft was built in the late 90s, you know, early 2000s, like 2002 or 3 is when it was actually registered. So, and it's mostly been sitting. I mean, the airplane had 10 hours on it when I bought it. So there was, I mean, the previous 2 owners, it's only had 2 owners prior to myself, neither one of them flew it. You know, the last guy that flew it, he was an older gentleman, and he bent the landing gear a couple of times because he just couldn't figure out how to land it. I've done the same thing. It took me a good you know, 6, 7, 8 landings, all in the same day that I was practicing, before I could actually get the landings down, because this thing does not land, it does not fly like a Cessna. You know, a Cessna, you can bring it in nice and slow, and it'll float. You know, you get into that ground effect and it'll float, you know, almost forever. This one doesn't. This one, you know, Cessna, you can cut the engine down to idle and just come in and float. This one doesn't. You gotta keep on the engine, you know, and what they say is fly it all the way to the ground. And it took me a while to figure that out, and to get proficient at my landings, but now I'm pretty good. You know, so every now and then I'll have a little bit of a hop here and there, but no, I've gotten a lot better at flying it, and like I said, it's a lot of fun to fly. It's a lot of fun to land on the water, and so yeah, that's about it. So I'll let y'all go, and once again, I hope y'all have a great day, and I hope y'all enjoy the videos that I upload, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.